Welcome. Today we are going
We
to
are
take a
going
look
to
at the
take a look at the
pseudoscience iceberg.
pseudoscience
If you
iceberg.
find the video interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe. The iceberg was made by null. Acupuncture is a form of alternative medicine involving the insertion of thin needles into the body, originating from traditional Chinese medicine. Despite its widespread use, it is considered a pseudoscience and has been criticized as quackery. There are various acupuncture variants based on different philosophies, with techniques varying by country. It is primarily employed for pain relief, often as a complementary treatment. The global acupuncture market was valued at $24.55 billion in 2017, with expectations to reach $55 billion by 2023. Scientific evidence regarding the effectiveness of acupuncture is inconclusive, and systematic reviews often find no significant benefits. While generally safe when administered by trained practitioners with clean needle techniques, adverse effects, such as infections and pneumothorax, have been reported. Skepticism surrounds traditional Chinese concepts associated with acupuncture, including qi, meridians, and acupuncture points, as scientific investigations have found no physiological evidence supporting them. The practice is believed to have originated around 100 BC in China, and its popularity fluctuated over time due to changes in political leadership and medical preferences. Acupuncture spread to Korea, Japan, and Europe, evolving as it reached Western countries. In the 20th century, some spiritual elements were abandoned in favor of a more pragmatic approach, aligning with scientific knowledge. HIV/AIDS denialism is the belief, contrary to overwhelming evidence, that the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, does not cause acquired immune deficiency syndrome, AIDS. Denialists may reject the existence of HIV or argue that it is a harmless virus, attributing AIDS to factors such as sexual behavior, drugs, malnutrition, or medications. The scientific consensus firmly establishes HIV as the cause of AIDS, dismissing denialist claims as pseudoscience based on conspiracy theories and faulty reasoning. Despite lacking scientific support, HIV/AIDS denialism has had significant political consequences, notably in South Africa during Thabo Mbeki's presidency. The denialist stance discouraged HIV-positive individuals from accessing proven treatments, leading to substantial human costs, including AIDS-related deaths and new HIV infections. Public health researchers attribute considerable negative impacts to the South African government's previous embrace of denialism, including interrupted antiretroviral treatment use, raising concerns about the emergence of antiretroviral-resistant HIV strains globally. Aromatherapy involves the use of aromatic materials, such as essential oils and aroma compounds, with the aim of enhancing psychological well-being. Positioned as a complementary or alternative therapy, it utilizes various applications like topical use, massage, inhalation, or water immersion. However, fragrances used in aromatherapy are not approved as prescription drugs in the United States. Despite its popularity, there is insufficient medical evidence supporting the preventive, therapeutic, or curative claims of aromatherapy for any disease. While some disputed evidence suggests potential effectiveness in addressing postoperative nausea and vomiting, the overall scientific consensus is lacking in demonstrating its efficacy for medical purposes. Colloidal silver, consisting of silver particles in liquid, was used in the early 20th century but declined in the 1940s with the advent of antibiotics. However, since around 1990, there has been a resurgence in promoting colloidal silver as a dietary supplement, with claims of being an essential mineral and treating various diseases. No medical evidence supports these assertions, and there is no dietary requirement for silver in humans. Colloidal silver can cause serious side effects like argyria. In 1999, the U.S. FDA banned claims of therapeutic or preventive value for colloidal silver. Despite this, silver-containing products are marketed as dietary supplements, facing looser regulatory standards. Warning letters have been issued to websites promoting colloidal silver, but it remains available. The Australian Therapeutic Goods Administration found no legitimate medical uses for colloidal silver. The U.S. National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health warns against unsupported marketing claims and potential side effects. The U.S. FDA issued a consumer advisory in 2009, emphasizing the lack of legally marketed silver-containing drugs taken orally. Quackwatch and Consumer Reports deem colloidal silver ineffective and likely unsafe. Selling colloidal silver for consumption may be illegal in some jurisdictions. In 2015, a person was prosecuted under the Cancer Act 1939 for selling colloidal silver with claims of treating cancer, highlighting legal consequences associated with false medical claims. Conversion therapy is a pseudoscientific practice aimed at changing an individual's sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression to conform with heterosexual and cisgender norms. Methods employed include brain surgery, surgical or hormonal castration, aversive treatments like electric shocks and nausea-inducing drugs, as well as counseling, hypnosis, spiritual interventions, visualization, psychoanalysis, and arousal reconditioning. Scientific consensus holds that conversion therapy is ineffective in altering sexual orientation or gender identity and often leads to significant long-term psychological harm. Current evidence-based medicine and clinical guidance affirm that homosexuality, bisexuality, and gender variance are natural and healthy aspects of human sexuality. Historically, conversion therapy was the favored treatment for those disclosing same-sex attractions or gender nonconformity, which were wrongly considered pathologies by the medical establishment. Today, such practices may be deemed fraud, child abuse when performed on minors, and are described by experts as torture and contrary to human rights. Many jurisdictions worldwide are enacting laws against conversion therapy in recognition of its harmful effects and infringement on human rights. Crystal healing is a pseudoscientific alternative medicine practice that involves using semi-precious stones and crystals, such as quartz, agate, amethyst, or opal, for purported healing powers. Despite claims by practitioners that these crystals can boost energy, prevent negative energy, release blocked energy, and transform a person's aura, there is no scientific basis for these assertions. In crystal healing, practitioners may place crystals on specific parts of the body, often corresponding to chakras, or create an energy grid around the body to supposedly surround the client with healing energy. Scientific investigations have found no evidence supporting the existence of such energy grids, and there is no indication that crystal healing has any more significant impact on the body than a placebo effect. The popularity of crystal healing has led to a commercial demand for crystals, which can contribute to environmental damage and exploitative child labor in the mining of these crystals. Cupping therapy is considered a pseudoscience, involving the creation of local suction on the skin through the application of heated cups. Although primarily practiced in Asia, it is also found in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and Latin America. The practice of cupping has been labeled as pseudoscience and quackery. Practitioners of cupping claim it can be used for various medical conditions such as fevers, chronic low back pain, poor appetite, high blood pressure, and more. However, there is insufficient evidence to support the health benefits of cupping, and there are potential risks, particularly with wet cupping and fire cupping. Adverse effects, including bruising and skin discoloration, have been reported, sometimes leading to mistaken allegations of child abuse. In rare cases, legal action has been taken against parents who subjected their children to cupping therapy. Free energy suppression, also known as new energy suppression, is a conspiracy theory suggesting that practical, environmentally friendly, and cost-free energy sources are intentionally being withheld by governments, corporations, or advocacy groups. The alleged suppressed devices include perpetual motion machines, cold fusion generators, torus-based generators, reverse-engineered extraterrestrial technology, anti-gravity propulsion systems, and other unproven, low-cost energy sources. It posits that the existence of these technologies is being deliberately concealed to maintain control over existing energy systems or to protect economic interests. It's important to note that mainstream scientific consensus generally rejects the feasibility of many of these purported energy sources, considering them scientifically implausible or unproven. Homeopathy is a pseudoscientific system of alternative medicine created in 1796 by the German physician Samuel Hahnemann. Practitioners, known as homeopaths, believe in the principle of like cures like, asserting that substances causing symptoms in healthy individuals can treat similar symptoms in the sick. Homeopathic remedies are prepared through repeated dilution until the final product is chemically indistinguishable from the diluent, often with no remaining molecules of the original substance. The process involves shaking or hitting the product between dilutions, claimed to help it remember the original substance. Despite the popularity of homeopathy in the 19th century, its decline began in the early 20th century, with a resurgence in the 1970s linked to the New Age movement and chemophobia. However, homeopathy has faced substantial scientific criticism. Scientific knowledge in physics, chemistry, biochemistry, and biology contradicts homeopathy, and clinical trials generally show no objective effects from homeopathic preparations. The fundamental implausibility and lack of demonstrable effectiveness have led to its characterization as quackery and fraud. In the 21st century, meta-analyses have consistently shown that homeopathy lacks scientific justification. Numerous national and international bodies, including those in Australia, the United Kingdom, Switzerland, France, the European Academy's Science Advisory Council, and the Russian Academy of Sciences, have recommended withdrawing government funding for homeopathy in healthcare. As a result, some countries, like England and France, have removed funding for homeopathic remedies, reflecting a growing acknowledgement of its ineffectiveness in mainstream medicine. The law of attraction is a new thought spiritual belief suggesting that positive or negative thoughts can bring corresponding positive or negative experiences into a person's life. It is grounded in the idea that individuals and their thoughts are composed of pure energy, and like energy, can attract similar energy, leading to improvements in health, wealth, or personal relationships. Despite lacking empirical scientific evidence, the law of attraction is often presented in pseudoscientific or pseudo-religious terms. Supporters of the law of attraction typically use cognitive reframing, affirmations, and creative visualization to replace negative thoughts with more positive ones. The philosophy emphasizes that to change negative thinking patterns effectively, one must also emotionally feel, through creative visualization, that the desired changes have already happened. This combination of positive thought and positive emotion is believed to align an individual with the proposed energetic law, attracting positive experiences and opportunities. While some proponents attempt to reference scientific theories in support of the law of attraction, it lacks a demonstrable scientific basis. Critics argue that scientific concepts are misused by its advocates, and the overall consensus is that the law of attraction is considered pseudoscience or a belief system masked in scientific language. A lobotomy, derived from the Greek words meaning lobe and cut, is a discredited neurosurgical procedure used in the past as a treatment for psychiatric and neurological disorders such as epilepsy and depression. It involves severing connections in the prefrontal cortex of the brain, essentially cutting most connections to and from this area. Initially considered a mainstream procedure for treating psychiatric disorders in some countries, lobotomy was controversial due to a lack of understanding of the nature and chronicity of severe psychiatric illnesses. Antonio Egas Moniz, the originator of the procedure, shared the Nobel Prize for Physiology or Medicine in 1949 for the discovery of the therapeutic value of leucotomy in certain psychoses, but the award has been subject to controversy. The use of lobotomy increased significantly in the 1940s and 1950s, with nearly 20,000 lobotomies performed in the United States by 1951. It was more commonly performed on women than men, with a significant number of patients being gay men. However, from the 1950s onward, lobotomy began to be abandoned, starting in the Soviet Union and Europe. The procedure fell out of favor due to concerns about its efficacy, ethical implications, and the development of alternative treatments. Scientific racism, also known as biological racism, is a pseudoscientific belief that the human species can be divided into biologically distinct races, and that empirical evidence exists to support racial discrimination, racial inferiority, or racial superiority. Before the mid-20th century, scientific racism was accepted in the scientific community but is no longer considered scientific. This belief involves classifying human populations into physically discrete races and assigning particular physical and mental characteristics to these groups, a perspective rejected by modern scientific consensus as incompatible with genetic research. Scientific racism often misapplies or distorts disciplines such as anthropology, craniometry, and evolutionary biology to create anthropological typologies that categorize human populations into races, with some asserted to be superior or inferior. It was prevalent from the 1600s to the end of World War II, especially prominent in European and American academic writings during the mid-19th to early 20th century. Despite being discredited since the mid-20th century, it has persisted as a foundation for racist worldviews based on the belief in racial categories and a hierarchy of superior and inferior races. Post-World War II, scientific racism was formally denounced, and anthropologists established a consensus that human races are sociopolitical rather than biological constructs. The term scientific racism is used pejoratively, particularly when applied to modern theories that are perceived to postulate racist conclusions without adequate evidence. Journals like the Mankind Quarterly, associated with race-conscious perspectives, are often criticized for promoting fringe interpretations of various disciplines in support of scientific racism. Trickle-down economics refers to economic policies that primarily benefit the upper echelon of the economic spectrum, consisting of wealthy individuals and large corporations. The underlying idea is that if policies favor this segment, their increased spending and investments will trickle down to benefit those at lower income levels. The term is commonly used by critics of supply-side economics and is associated with taxing and spending policies that, whether intentionally or unintentionally, contribute to widening income inequality. It has also been employed critically in discussions about neoliberalism. Notable examples of policies labeled as trickle-down economics in the United States include the Reagan tax cuts, the Bush tax cuts, and the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. In the United Kingdom, an example is Liz Truss's mini-budget tax cuts in 2022. However, as of 2023, several studies have indicated that reducing tax burdens on the upper income levels does not necessarily lead to obvious economic growth. Critics argue that such policies can exacerbate income inequality without delivering the promised widespread economic benefits. A polygraph, often inaccurately referred to as a lie detector test, is a device or procedure considered junk science that measures physiological indicators such as blood pressure, pulse, respiration, and skin conductivity while a person answers a series of questions. The belief supporting polygraph use is that deceptive answers produce physiological responses distinct from those associated with truthful answers. However, there are no specific physiological reactions reliably linked to lying, making it challenging to differentiate between deceptive and truthful responses. In some countries, polygraphs are used as an interrogation tool with criminal suspects or candidates for sensitive employment positions. Various U.S. law enforcement and federal government agencies, such as the FBI, DEA, CIA, NSA, and police departments like the LAPD and Virginia State Police, use polygraph examinations for interrogations and employment screenings. However, assessments by scientific and government bodies generally indicate that polygraphs are highly inaccurate, susceptible to countermeasures, and an imperfect means of assessing truthfulness. Scientific reviews, including one by the National Academy of Sciences, have found little basis for expecting extremely high accuracy from polygraph tests. The American Psychological Association states that most psychologists agree there is little evidence supporting the accurate detection of lies through polygraph tests. Additionally, the control question test, designed to address issues with other testing methods, has its own set of problems, including bias against innocent subjects who may automatically fail the test. Christian Science is a set of beliefs and practices associated with the Church of Christ, Scientist, founded in 19th century New England by Mary Baker Eddy. Adherents, known as Christian Scientists, follow Eddy's central text, science and health with key to the scriptures, alongside the Bible. Eddy and followers received a charter in 1879 to establish the Church of Christ, Scientist, later reorganized as the Church of Christ, Scientist in 1892. The Mother Church, the First Church of Christ, Scientist, was built in Boston in 1894. Christian Science experienced significant growth in the United States, but declined in membership over the years. It is recognized for its newspaper, the Christian Science Monitor, and public reading rooms worldwide. The theology of Christian Science differs from traditional Christianity, emphasizing philosophical idealism and the belief that reality is purely spiritual, considering the material world an illusion. Adherents believe diseases result from mental errors rather than physical disorders and advocate healing through prayer rather than medicine. While Christian Scientists are not prohibited from seeking medical care, the Church suggests that prayer is most effective when not combined with medicine. This stance has been controversial, with instances of adherents and their children facing health issues or death due to reliance on prayer and avoidance of medical treatment. Between the 1880s and 1990s, some parents faced legal consequences, including manslaughter or neglect charges, for these incidents. The Political Compass is a website that gathers responses to a set of 62 propositions to assess and categorize political ideologies along two axes, one related to economic policy, left, right, and the other related to social policy, authoritarian, libertarian. Users respond to the propositions, and based on their answers, the website places them on a political compass, providing a visual representation of their political stance within these two dimensions. The economic axis assesses views on economic policies, while the social axis gauges attitudes towards social issues and individual freedoms. The resulting compass aims to offer a nuanced understanding of political positions beyond a simple left-right spectrum. Flat Earth is an outdated and scientifically debunked concept that posits the Earth as a flat plane or disk rather than a spherical object. While many ancient cultures once adhered to a flat Earth cosmography, the idea of a spherical Earth gained prominence in ancient Greek philosophy, particularly with figures like Pythagoras and Aristotle. Plato, a student of Pythagoras, wrote about a spherical Earth in the early 4th century BC, and by around 330 BC, Aristotle provided empirical evidence supporting this view. Knowledge of Earth's global shape gradually spread beyond the Hellenistic world over time. Contrary to a historical myth, medieval Europeans did not generally believe in a flat Earth. This myth emerged in the 17th century, created by Protestants to counter Catholic teachings. Despite the overwhelming scientific evidence supporting a spherical Earth and the historical acceptance of this view, flat Earth conspiracy theories persist in modern times. Flat Earth societies and individuals, often using social media platforms, propagate these pseudoscientific ideas despite their lack of empirical support. Altaic is a controversial proposed language family that includes the Turkic, Mongolic, and Tungusic language families, and possibly also the Japonic and Koreanic languages. The concept of the Altaic language family has been a subject of debate among linguists. The proposed family was first introduced in the 18th century and gained acceptance until the 1960s. While Altaic is still mentioned in some encyclopedias and handbooks, the majority of comparative linguists have rejected the hypothesis since the 1950s. The rejection was based on findings that suggested cognates were not valid, hypothesized sound shifts were not observed, and Turkic and Mongolic languages were converging rather than diverging over time. The prevailing view among linguists is that the similarities between Altaic languages are more likely the result of a sprachbund, indicating linguistic convergence due to prolonged contact rather than a common genetic ancestry. Despite the widespread rejection of the Altaic hypothesis, a small scholarly minority continues to support it. The confusion around the status of the Altaic hypothesis has led some linguists to adopt the term Trans-Eurasian to avoid misunderstandings. The debate over Altaic has not found wider support, but it has persisted, particularly in some academic circles and as a substratum of Turanism, where a hypothetical common linguistic ancestor is used as part of a basis for a multi-ethnic nationalist movement. Thanks for watching. If you found the video interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe.